how are we? Last live of the week, it's Thursday. So I normally focus the middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, on trainings and lives and things, and I try and get out and check on projects the beginning and the end of the week. So the topic which I listed for today was personal finance. So we talk endlessly, obviously, about margin on flips and what to buy and what not to buy, and the returns on serviced accommodation versus HMOs, and we talk about a huge amount of property related things. But what I suppose we often don't talk about is what you're actually doing with the money when you get it, because this absolutely fascinates me, chatting to different people all the time. So I know I mentioned on a live earlier in the week, and this is something that for $30 will revolutionise your life. Maybe not in a good way. Is I monitor literally everything I spend. I monitor everything I spend, not really, sometimes to save money, sometimes to stop. I look at all the money spent on stuff I don't need, and I see all the bags going out to the charity shop, which were barely opened, and I think, my God, what a waste of money. If you want to, if you've spare money, give it to a charity of your choice. Just don't keep buying rubbish. So I monitor. I suppose it's really good for bookkeeping, it's really good for taxes, but it's also really good for you to understand your own spending habits. So I use a tool called Quicken. Now, Quicken is, so people talk constantly about accounts packages and fancy things like Xero is really popular one now. I use Wave. It's kind of Xero's poorer cousin, I suppose, for invoicing. It's great. It'll send out immediate invoices, and it'll your bank details can be on them. People can pay online, but then on my training courses, people can just book them and pay. Sometimes people go on courses during the night when I'm in bed, and I don't even find out. They could be halfway through the course by the morning if they're a night owl. So it's not so much that most people monitor their business spending fairly good. They might say, well, I'm not as on top of it as I should be. But the funny thing is, I notice most people don't actually monitor what they're spending on other things at all. They just keep buying. Groceries, clothes, things for the house that they don't need. A huge amount of people just keep spending on the other stuff, but there's no monitoring at all. So what I use this Quicken for, Quicken is like a fancy Excel. It memorises. It has lots of reports. It memorises what if I type in VHI, it knows that's health insurance. If I type in Board Gosh, it knows it's a utility bill. It's really, really interesting, and I think it's a really good tool for people to sort of find their number, as I'll call it. It's really useful to see what goes in and out of all of your accounts. Now, obviously, I need some of this information to file tax returns. So I've a bank account in Portugal, and any rent that has to do with the place in Portugal goes in there, and that's fine. That has to be reported in Portugal, and the tax paid on it there, and that's simple enough. But just by doing this exercise the other day, I noticed utility bills that had come out of the account twice and things like that. I had been a bit sloppy on this, but I found it begun to really bother me that I couldn't remember when I paid my car insurance and all of these things. And I said, I used to be really good. I used to know everything, every cent that went out of my bank account or any bank account. So I bought another version of Quicken. I had it on an old computer, and it says it has an app actually now as well, but it's not crazily cohesively online. But it's a really brilliant tool, because how many of us who have a business, you have a business card and a personal card, mine are in two different banks, but I often forget and hand the wrong thing in Tesco. And equally, the opposite, I go into the paint shop and pay for a load of paint and forget that I actually paid out of my own money. Then I have a receipt, but do I definitely claim that receipt? Probably not always. So I find to actually drill down into all your accounts, business or personal. Now, you can sit your business account on here beside a personal account, no problem at all. And then if your accountant wants the report at the end of the year, you can just give them the piece that relates to the business. So that is really handy. But it's absolutely incredible when you start to analyse all spending. It's funny, really, because there are people who are running buy-to-lets and putting 200 grand at risk to get 300 quid a month net return. and they're wasting more than 300 quid on the grocery shopping and the clothes that they don't need. So it's really, really worth doing this exercise. If you're not meticulous with your own finances, you're not going to be able to be meticulous with flips and things that, all of those type of things. Like, I'm in the process of doing a top up mortgage in Portugal, and yesterday I was asked to produce all the receipts for a job done 3 years ago. Now they're actually nearly illegible because most of them are just till receipts and they fade a lot. But I had counted about, I think, 75 receipts on that job alone. So if you're not able to mind your own personal bank account, it's a warning sign for how you'll manage any of these other bank accounts. So really, really get organised. But I would highly, highly recommend you analyse your spending. Every week even. It makes for very, very sobering listening. Yes, of course, we all have to pay bills. We all have insurances, but do we even shop around our insurances? Oh, I noticed I had 2 sets of travel insurance as well when I did this exercise the other day. And direct debit that I thought I'd cancelled for something ages ago. So it's really, really worth doing. Where it's not just, well, there's all the money that's dropping through the cracks every year, and that's partly it. But it's not just that. It's the fact that it teaches you discipline. Of you have to have discipline with the expenses to do with, especially flips. Say buy to lets, there's less volume of stuff. But when you're doing a flip, you really could have 60 invoices because all the small things, if you're staging and furnishing, there's a million invoices. You'll never be able to get things all in the one shop. So there's a million invoices for all the small things, which some of them you'll later recycle onto another job, some of them you won't. But you really, really need to be watching them and what account did they come out of. Because what happens most people is they claim the stuff that came out of their business bank account fine, but they completely forget the stuff that came out of their personal account and they end up paying for themselves with no tax allowance. So I would really, really urge you guys to have a look at monitoring your personal finances. If you do it every week, there wouldn't be 20 transactions in a week. I do, obviously, the insolvency work I do, there's a schedule of costs. Which is agreed in Ireland. So if you can't pay your full mortgage, the first place I have to start at is what are you spending every month? What money is coming in and what's going out? Obviously what's coming in is sort of set in stone. It's your salary or whatever, if you're self-employed, whatever you're able to draw from your business, etc. But what's going out? The bank, people fill in all these standard financial statements, but the bank actually barely read those really because they have a table from which you're not meant to deviate much called reasonable living expenses. So there's a magic list that says this is what's reasonable for a single person, this is what's reasonable for a couple, and then it adds on children by their ages. It adds on a cost to run a car. They have, there's a good bit of work gone into assessing those, so most of us should be able to live by them. But if you heard the noises people make when I start to describe this to them, there's, oh my God, sure I couldn't. My groceries are 150 quid a week, and my this and my that. And I'm saying, but you're not paying your mortgage. Like, it doesn't add up. You cannot be spending 150 quid a week on your groceries if you're not able to pay your mortgage. Because what if I can't get a write down of the mortgage? I don't deal with family homes much for this exact reason. I normally deal with just investments which people are happy to get rid of if they can get a deal on the balance. But it's quite fascinating the amount of money that's wasted. I'd love to see people giving money away to charities, to something that's near and dear to them, that there's some interest in, or that that's something that they can help, that their money goes far. When you donate now to something too, like there's an orphanage in Haiti that I send money sometimes, and the amount they can do for a small bit of money. People are throwing food into the bin here unopened in Ireland because they bought everything because they didn't know what they'd fancy. So you're never going to be really, really effective at property or indeed any other business if you don't have a handle on what you're already spending. And I really, really couldn't recommend Quicken enough, and also just monitoring everything. I'm not even interested in clothes, as ye have surely noticed by looking at me. I must have 10 grey hoodies, so I look like I'm wearing the same clothes all the time anyhow. but still, merely as a pastime. There's parcels arriving there. I glance out the office window and I say, oh, that's great. There's Frank the postman. Oh, he has something for me. And the little part of you like a child that thinks somebody sent you a gift when in fact I clearly went online myself and ordered that stuff. It's the only way Frank rocks up on the front porch with it. So just be mindful. You'll find duplicate utility bills, you'll find direct debits you are meant to cancel, you'll find all your insurance payments and at least you'll know what date it is. There's memo fields that you can put in. You'll notice if anyone has missed a direct debit or anything, because that's, if you're not monitoring your bank accounts, you could even be missing payments and not realise that you are. But I would thoroughly recommend you monitor all your monies out. It's like your time. I mean, it's one of the most photos that we use here is time and money. It's the clock and the pile of money on any of my brochures and stuff, because really in lots of ways time and money are the only variables in any of these scenarios, and people are not monitoring either of them closely enough, in my opinion. Like, time management is just as important as money management, because again, people are under the illusion that they're working 10 hours a day. They're at the desks 10 hours a day. I'm not contesting that at all. But when I really watch time, if I'm really doing serious work for 5.5, 6 hours a day, that I'm doing well to do that, but I'm still at the desk for 12 hours. Where's the other time gone? That's not chatting to new customers. I don't have that much admin. Thanks, Ronan. I don't have that much admin. It's that time drifts as we get tired, but also money drifts when you sort of have enough of it. But we shouldn't be. We should be treating it as if you don't have enough of it, because that's the only way. The people who are prudent with money are able to save. That's a great idea, Michael, a financial health check once a month. It's so useful, because honestly, because most of us aren't strapped for cash, we don't count down. And I often think, actually, there's not half as much fun either in it as when you were a student or you had your first job and you'd be waiting to get paid or deciding what to do with that last tenner. Very few of us have that feeling now. And I even chat to some people. I chat to people all the time, obviously, in the zone of property, who are very wealthy. And they often say to me they don't enjoy anything as much now as when they had to really think about it or save for it. So it's a really good habit to watch all those things. We're overpaying on huge amounts of things. We've subscriptions we don't need. So just a reminder, it's no good minding the big things and planning and education and all of that if you're not watching. There could be 500 quid a month going out that you don't need. That's probably 2 buy-to-lets, guys. That's 6 potential tenants annoying your backside in the evenings when you're trying to relax. So rather than having to, before you even think about earning more, you could have a look at what you're spending it on. And if you do have something to spare, there's plenty of worthy causes. But for most of us Westerners, it's bulging fridges, compost bins, and clothes just going on a rotation around the house and then out to the charity shop again. The same even with books and stuff. Books used to be my real splurge spending. And now I find I have the library app on my Kindle. I probably save 100 quid a month on books, because some of them then when you start you don't even like them. So the library app is fantastic. It's free of charge and they have a good selection of books. But it's just, I know this is kind of different to property, but when I think of it, you could have to run 2 buy-to-lets to do the 500 quid a month. And I'd say most people are wasting about that, 100 quid a week, 100 quid odd a week. And the waste is absolutely awful. Just do something decent with it if you have the money to spare. And it makes you meticulous. So when I'm doing this, I'm able to easily keep on top of updating the few things every week. Whereas if I let it go 6 months, it's an insurmountable task. I actually spent the whole day Monday this week now migrating back onto Quicken. And I felt much better, because I was thinking, money had gone somewhere between here and Christmas, and I couldn't fathom. And then I remembered a few big things I've done and that I've worked on a project which is just sitting because of the coronavirus. And once I was able to see it clearly, sure, all the panic has gone out of your head. There is no sinking feeling. You're completely on it and you know what's happening. So I think it's very very useful to do that. Um, um, I'm just reading Dave's comments here. Having standing orders, taking money out the balance sheet looks less, and I get more than having to make conscious decisions. Yes, yes. I had set up a savings direct debit a while ago because it's just a good habit, even if you don't particularly need to save at the moment. And anytime you are applying for mortgages, even for buy-to-lets, it's a great thing to let them see that you do that every month. So I've plenty of direct debits of standing orders, but I generally find I've a few that were meant to be killed and I've forgotten to kill them off. So I hope that's been useful, guys. Have a riveting weekend, getting Quicken updated. Drop me a message, anyone who wants. I think it's Quicken Deluxe is the version I have. I just think it's absolutely brilliant to be able to see everything at a glance. All of your utility bills together, all of that type of stuff, all of your insurances together, all the money that goes on groceries, all of the different categories. So it has a load of categories. It's fantastic. And it certainly makes you a little bit more aware of what you're doing. Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks a million. I hope that was useful. Bye.